Hey there. Welcome to Whispers of RPG, your go-to spot for uncovering the coolest tales in role-playing games. Today, get ready to explore the mysterious world of Elden Ring with me as we uncover every twist and turn, including the latest surprises from Shadow of the Tree. Let's dive right in and see what secrets await. Over the next few hours, we'll uncover the profound implications of each path your Tarnished can take. From the restoration of order to the embrace of chaos, from cosmic ascension to the cursing of all existence. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin this epic adventure together as we explore the many faces of destiny that await at the foot of the tree. The endings of Elden Ring are not mere conclusions to a journey, but profound statements about power, order, freedom, and the very nature of existence itself. Each ending represents a fundamental choice about what the world should become, who should rule it, and whether the cycle of suffering should continue or be broken entirely. FromSoftware has crafted 6 distinct endings in the base game, each with its own philosophical weight and narrative significance. And now, with Shadow of the Tree, we have additional context that reframes everything we thought we knew about these choices. To understand these endings, we must first understand the world that brings us to them. The lands between exist in a state of perpetual conflict, where the Golden Order, established by Queen America, has begun to crumble. The Elden Ring, the cosmic law that governs reality itself, has been shattered, and with it, the certainties of life, death, and divine rule have been thrown into chaos. Into this broken world comes the Tarnished, guided by grace toward the Erdtree with the promise of becoming Elden Lord and restoring order to the realm. Yet, as we've learned through our journey, and particularly through the revelations of Shadow of the Erdtree, the nature of this order, the true history of Ma's ascension, and the cost of maintaining divine rule are far more complex than they initially appear. The DLC has shown us America's own traumatic past, her transformation from a humble shaman into a god, and the cycles of violence that preceded the Golden Order. This context transforms how we view each ending, as we now understand that every choice we make echoes the decisions of those who came before. The age of fracture, the default path. Let us begin with what many consider the default ending, the age of fracture. This is the path that Melina guides you toward throughout your journey. The ending that requires no special quests or hidden knowledge, simply the completion of the main narrative thread. In this ending, the Tarnished repairs the Elden Ring and ascends to become Elden Lord, sitting upon the throne beneath the golden light of the restored tree. The age of fracture represents a return to the status quo, or at least an attempt at such a return. The narrator speaks of how the fallen leaves tell a story of how a Tarnished became Elden Lord, suggesting that this outcome will be remembered as a restoration. healing of the great wound that was the shattering. Yet the very name Age of Fracture suggests that this healing is imperfect, that the cracks remain visible even as they are mended. To achieve this ending, you must follow the golden path laid out by grace itself. You gather the great runes from the demigods, defeat Morgott in the capital, burn the tree with the flame of the giants, traverse the crumbling ruins of Farum Azula, and finally face Rathagen and the Elden Beast in the heart of the tree itself. When you emerge victorious, you simply touch the fractured statue of America and choose to mend the Elden Ring without any additional modifications. The philosophical implications of this choice are profound. By choosing the Age of Fracture, the Tarnished accepts the fundamental structure of the world as it exists. They become a force of restoration rather than revolution, seeking to heal rather than transform. This is the ending that maintains the influence of the greater will, preserves the golden order's basic tenets, and continues the cycle of divine rule that has governed the lands between since America's ascension. Yet we must ask ourselves, is restoration truly healing? The golden order that you restore is the same system that led to the persecution of omens, the sealing away of death itself, and the eventual shattering that plunged the world into chaos. The shadow of the Erdtree DLC has revealed to us the violence that preceded Ma's rule, the crusade against the Hauntent, the burning of their towers, and the cycles of revenge that stretch back through generations. By choosing the Age of Fracture, are we healing these wounds, or simply ensuring that the same patterns will repeat? The ending cinematic shows us the Tarnished seated upon the throne, bathed in golden light, with the Erdtree restored to its former glory. It is a beautiful image, one that speaks to hope and renewal. The narrator's words suggest that this age will be remembered fondly, that the Tarnished's deed will be celebrated in song and story. Yet there's an ambiguity here, a sense that perhaps this is how the victors write history, how those in power frame their ascension. In the context of the broader Elden Ring narrative, the Age of Fracture represents continuity. It is the ending that asks the least of both the player and the world, requiring no fundamental changes to the cosmic order, no challenges to the established hierarchy of gods and mortals. The Tarnished becomes Elden Lord much as Godfrey did before them. Much as Rathagen did in his turn, the cycle continues. And perhaps that is both the comfort and the tragedy of this ending. The Shadow of the Tree DLC adds layers to this interpretation. We now know that America herself was once a victim of divine persecution, that her people, the shamans, were tortured and killed by the Hornsent in their pursuit of divinity. Yet when America achieved godhood, she did not break the cycle of violence, but perpetuated it, launching her own crusade of revenge. The Age of Fracture then becomes not just a restoration of order, but but a restoration of this cycle, ensuring that the pattern of divine authority backed by violence continues into the future. The Age of Order Gold masks perfect vision. Moving beyond the default ending, we encounter the first of the alternative paths. The Age of Order, achieved through the completion of Goldmusk's quest line and the acquisition of the Mending Rune of Perfect Order. This ending represents a more refined version of the restoration, one that seeks to perfect the Golden Order rather than simply restore it. Gold Mask, the brilliant and enigmatic scholar, spent his existence contemplating the flaws in the Golden Order. Through his research and meditation, he identified what he saw as the fundamental problem with the current system: the capricious nature of the gods themselves. The gods, in their mortality and personal desires, introduced chaos and conflict into what should be a perfect system of divine law. Ratigan's abandonment of Renala, America's shattering of the Elden Ring, the wars between demigods. All of these conflicts stem from the personal failings and desires of divine beings. To obtain this ending, you must follow Gold Mask's journey throughout the game. You'll first encounter him on the broken bridge leading to Landel, standing in contemplation with his companion, Brother Corin. Gold Mask poses a riddle about the nature of the Golden Order, one that can only be solved by uncovering the secret that Rathagen and America are one and the same person. This revelation, hidden within a statue in Landel and revealed through the law of regression incantation, is the key to understanding Gold Mask's philosophy. The discovery that Rathagen and America are one being is crucial to Gold Mask's understanding of the Order's flaws. Here was a god who fought against themselves, who created the very conflicts that tore the world apart. Ma shattered the Elden Ring while Rathagen sought to repair it. A divine contradiction that exemplified the chaos that personal will brings to cosmic law. From this understanding, Gold Mask developed his vision of perfect order, a system where the gods themselves are bound by immutable law, where personal desire cannot override cosmic harmony. The Mending Rune of Perfect Order represents this vision made manifest. When used to repair the Elden Ring, it creates a system where the fundamental laws of reality are so perfectly codified that even gods cannot violate them. The narrator speaks of the Age of Order, suggesting a time of unprecedented stability and harmony. This is order without the possibility of divine caprice, law without the corruption of personal ambition. Yet, this perfection comes at a cost. Perfect order implies the elimination of free will, at least at the cosmic level. The gods abound, yes, but so too is the possibility of growth, change, or adaptation. Gold Mask's vision is of a static universe, one where the laws are so perfect that they never need to be changed. This is simultaneously the ultimate expression of the Golden Order's ideals and its most extreme form. The Age of Order can be seen as a response to the trauma of the shattering, where the default ending trusts in the goodness of the restored order and its rulers. Gold Mask's ending eliminates the possibility of such rulers acting badly in the future. It's a system designed by someone who has witnessed the chaos that divine authority can create and has decided that the solution is to remove the human element from governance entirely. In the context of Shadow of the Earth's revelations, the Age of Order takes on additional significance. We now know that the Golden Order was built upon violence, that Mi's ascension came through conquest and revenge. Gold Mask's perfect order could be seen as an attempt to transcend this history, to create a system so pure that it cannot be corrupted by the cycles of violence that have defined the world's past. Yet it also raises the question of whether such perfection is truly desirable, whether a world without the possibility of change can truly be called alive. The Age of Order is perhaps the most intellectually satisfying of the endings for those who believe in the power of reason and law to solve the world's problems. It represents the triumph of philosophy over politics, of cosmic principle over personal desire. Yet, it also represents a kind of death, the end of history itself, as all possibilities are constrained within perfect, unchanging law. The Age of the Duskborn, fear's natural order, where Gold Masks sought perfection through the elimination of divine caprice. Fear, the deathbed companion, sought healing through the restoration of a natural cycles. The Age of the Duskborn, achieved through completing Fear's quest line and obtaining the mending rune of the Death Prince, represents a fundamental challenge to one of the Golden Order's core principles, the binding of death. Under the Golden Order, death as a natural process was largely eliminated. The urge absorbed the souls of the dead, granting a form of immortality to those within its grace. This was seen as a blessing, a triumph over the cruel inevitability of mortality. Yet, this disruption of the natural cycle created its own problems. Those who live in death were ostracized and hunted. The undead became abominations to be destroyed, and the very concept of a natural end to life was lost. Thea's quest begins with her role as a deathbed companion, one who holds the dying and absorbs their life force to give it to champions. She speaks of the warmth that comes from such intimacy with death, the comfort that can be found in accepting mortality rather than fleeing from it. Her ultimate goal is the resurrection of Godwyn the Golden, not as a living being, but as the Prince of Death, a god who can restore the natural balance between life and death. The path to this ending takes you deep into the underground realms, to the deeper depths where Godwyn's corrupted remains have taken root. Here, in a cathedral of roots and death, Fear performs her final service. She lies with Godwin's corpse, giving her life to birth the mending rune of the Death Prince. It's a profoundly intimate act, one that speaks to fear's belief that death should not be feared, but embraced as part of the natural order. The age of the Duskcorn represents a world where the barrier between life and death is lowered, where those who exist in states between the two are no longer persecuted, but accepted as part of the natural order. The Duskborn are those who exist in this twilight state, neither fully alive nor fully dead, but part of a broader spectrum of existence that the Golden Order had tried to eliminate. This ending is particularly poignant when viewed through the lens of acceptance and tolerance. Throughout Elden Ring, we encounter beings who have been cast out by the Golden Order for their nature. The omens with their horns, the Albinorics who are considered artificial, the misbegotten who are deemed unworthy of grace. The age of the Duskborn extends this acceptance to death itself, suggesting that all states of being have their place in the cosmic order. The philosophical implications are profound. Where other endings seek to impose order through force or perfection through law, the age of the Dustborn seeks harmony through acceptance. It's an ending that says the world's problems come not from the existence of death, but from the refusal to accept death as natural. By restoring the Prince of Death to his rightful place, the mending rune of the Death Prince creates a world where the full spectrum of existence is honored. Yet this ending also raises questions about what such acceptance means in practice. A world where the boundary between life and death is fluid is not necessarily a comfortable one for the living. The undead may be accepted, but that doesn't mean they cease to be dangerous or alien to mortal experience. The age of the Duskborn may be more tolerant than the Golden Order, but it may also be more frightening for those who prefer the certainties of clear distinctions between life and death. In the context of Shadow of the Ur's revelations about America's past, the age of the Duskcorn takes on additional resonance. We now know that America's people, the shamans, possessed unique properties that allowed them to be melded together in jar rituals. Their very nature made them liminal beings existing between individual and collective identity. The persecution they face for this nature parallels the persecution of the undead under the Golden Order. The age of the Duskborn could be seen as a final vindication for all those who have been rejected for their liminal nature. The blessing of despair, the Dung Eater's curse. Perhaps the most reviled of all possible endings is the blessing of despair, achieved through the deeply disturbing quest line of the Dung Eater and the acquisition of the mending rune of the Fell Curse. This ending represents not just a change in cosmic order, but the deliberate choice to curse all future generations to ensure that every being born into the world will carry the mark of defilement. The Dung Eater is one of the most reprehensible characters in all of Elden Ring's cast. His very name speaks to his vile nature, and his actions throughout the game, defiling corpses, spreading curses, and glorying in suffering, mark him as a figure of pure malevolence. Yet his quest line reveals a twisted philosophy behind his actions. A belief that by cursing everyone equally, he can eliminate the hierarchy of the blessed and the damned. Under the Golden Order, some are born blessed with grace, while others are born cursed as omens. Some are accepted into the tree's embrace, while others are hunted as abominations. The Dung Eater sees this inequality as the fundamental injustice of the world, and his solution is characteristically extreme. If everyone is cursed, then no one can claim superiority based on divine favor. To complete his quest line, you must feed him seedbed curses, the grotesque remains of those he has defiled. These items are found on corpses throughout the lands between, each one representing an act of violence and desecration that the Dung Eater has committed. The process of gathering these curses and delivering them to him is deeply uncomfortable, forcing the player to participate in his vile work, even if they don't share his philosophy. The final confrontation with the Dung Eater takes place in the sewers beneath Landel, in the subterranean shunning grounds where society's unwanted are hidden away. Here in the realm of filth and abandonment, the Dung Eater completes his work, transforming the accumulated curses into the mending rune of the Fell Curse. This rune carries within it the power to defile the very structure of reality, ensuring that all future births will be tainted with the curse he has spread. The blessing of despair ending is unique in that it explicitly calls itself a blessing, while clearly being a curse. The Dung Eater's twisted logic suggests that by making everyone equally miserable, he has eliminated the injustice of some being blessed while others suffer. In his view, universal curse is preferable to selective blessing because it treats all beings equally, even if that equality is found in suffering. The narrator's words for this ending are particularly chilling. The reviled curse that defined our age, the blessing of despair. The very language suggests a world that has accepted its own damnation, that has found a kind of peace in universal suffering. It's a deeply pessimistic vision, one that suggests that equality through shared misery is preferable to hierarchy with its inevitable injustices. This ending forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about justice and equality. Is the Dung Eater's vision entirely wrong? In a world where some are born as omens to be hunted, while others are born as demigods to be worshipped, is there a twisted logic to his solution? The Golden Order's inequality is undeniable. We see throughout the game how it persecutes those who don't fit its narrow definition of worthy existence. Yet, the cost of the Dung Eater's equality is unspeakably high. The mending rune of the Fell Curse doesn't just affect the present generation, but ensures that the world's children, grandchildren, and every generation hence will be its pestles. Say this is not revolution, but damnation, not reform, but revenge against existence itself. In the context of Shadow of the Tree, the blessing of despair takes on additional horrifying resonance. We now know the full extent of the cycles of revenge that have defined the world's history. Ma's people tortured by the Hornsent. Ma's revenge upon the Hornsent. And now potentially the Tarnished's revenge upon existence itself. The Dung Eater's ending represents the ultimate expression of this cycle. A curse so complete that it eliminates the possibility of any future escape from suffering. The blessing of despair is perhaps the most philosophically challenging ending, because it forces us to consider whether universal suffering might be preferable to systemic injustice. It's an ending that appeals to the darkest impulses of revenge and nihilism. Yet, it contains within it a genuine critique of the world's inequalities. Whether this critique justifies the solution is the question that haunts anyone who chooses this path. The Lord of Frenzied Flame, Chaos Incarnate. If the blessing of despair represents despair taken to its logical extreme, then the Lord of Frenzied Flame ending represents chaos given ultimate expression. This is perhaps the most radical of all possible endings, one that doesn't seek to repair or reform the world, but to burn it all away and start from nothing. The Frenzied Flame doesn't promise a better world. It promises no world at all. The path to this ending begins in the deepest depths beneath Landel, in the subterranean shunning grounds where the city hides its unwanted. Here, beyond even the Dung Eater's prison, lies a secret that predates the Golden Order itself. The Three Fingers, the antithesis to the two fingers that serve the greater will. Where the two fingers represent order and purpose, the three fingers embody chaos and the desire to return all things to the primordial unity that existed before creation. The journey to the three fingers is both literal and symbolic. You must descend through the sewers, past the imprisoned and the forgotten, through areas where even the light of grace barely reaches. The architecture itself becomes more primitive and alien as you go deeper, until you reach the Frenzied Flame prescription, a cathedral of madness where the three fingers wait. The encounter with the three fingers is unlike any other in the game. To approach them, you must remove all equipment, standing naked and vulnerable before these avatars of chaos. The cut scene that follows is deeply disturbing, showing the three fingers burning their mark into your character's flesh. While incomprehensible whispers fill the air, you emerge from this encounter permanently changed, your eyes glowing with the flame of frenzy, your very soul marked by chaos. The philosophy behind the Frenzied Flame is revealed through the words of Hayata, a blind maiden who serves as the flame's prophet. she speaks of the original unity, the one great that was divided and fractured into the multiplicity of existence. All suffering, she claims, stems from this division. If all things were one, there could be no conflict, no inequality, no pain. The frenzied flame offers to return all things to this state of unity by burning away the illusion of separation. This is a philosophy of ultimate nihilism, dressed in the language of healing. The frenzied flame doesn't seek to reform existence, but to end it, not to solve the world's problems, but to eliminate the world itself. It's a solution that appeals to those who have become so disillusioned with existence that they would rather see it all burn than continue to struggle with its imperfections. The Lord of Frenzied Flame Ending is unique in that it can override all other choices. If you bear the mark of the 3 fingers, no other ending is possible. You will automatically become the Lord of Frenzied Flame, whether you change your mind or not. This represents the consuming nature of chaos itself, the way that despair and nihilism can overwhelm all other considerations once they take hold. The ending itself is apocalyptic in the truest sense. The Tarnished doesn't sit upon a throne, but stands amid the flames as reality burns around them. The Erdtree is consumed. The lands between are reduced to ash, and the cycle of gods and mortals comes to an end, not through victory, but through obliteration. If Melina is still alive to witness this, she vows to hunt you down and deliver destined death to you, recognizing the ultimate betrayal of choosing destruction over any form of existence. The Lord of Frenzied Flame Ending forces us to confront the appeal of nihilism in the face of systemic injustice. When the world seems irredeemably broken, when every attempt at reform seems to perpetuate the same cycles of violence and oppression, the desire to simply burn it all down becomes understandable, even if it remains horrifying. In the context of Shadow of the Erd's revelations, the frenzied flame ending takes on additional meaning. We now see the full scope of the cycles of violence that have defined the world's history: persecution, revenge, counter-revenge, in an endless spiral of retribution. The frenzied flame represents the ultimate rejection of this cycle, not through forgiveness or reform, but through the complete annihilation of all participants. Yet the ending also raises profound questions about responsibility and choice. Is the complete destruction of existence ever justified by the existence of suffering? Can the elimination of all possibility for joy, love, and growth ever be worth the elimination of pain and injustice? The Lord of Frenzied Flame Ending suggests that some people, when faced with a broken world, will answer yes to these questions. The relationship between this ending and Melina's character arc is particularly poignant. Throughout the game, Melina guides you toward becoming Elden Lord, sacrificing herself at the Forge of the Giants to ensure your path forward. If you choose the frenzied flame before her sacrifice, she will abandon you, recognizing that you have chosen destruction over the restoration she represents. Her final vow to hunt you down, if you complete this ending, speaks to the ultimate betrayal that choosing the frenzied flame represents not just of the world, but of everyone who believed in the possibility of its healing. The Age of Stars, Ranni's cosmic revolution. Among all the endings of Elden Ring, the Age of Stars stands apart as perhaps the most complex and philosophically rich, achieved through the completion of Ranni, the witch's elaborate quest line. This ending represents not just a change in earthly rule, but a fundamental transformation of the relationship between the cosmic and the mundane, between gods and mortals, between order and freedom. Ranni the Witch is one of the most enigmatic and compelling characters in Elden Ring. A demigod who orchestrated her own death. A daughter who rebelled against her mother's order. A being who exists simultaneously in flesh and spirit form. She embodies the contradictions and complexities that define the world itself. Her quest line is correspondingly intricate, taking you across the breadth of the lands between and beyond into hidden cities and cosmic depths. The journey to the Age of Stars begins when you first encounter Ranni at her tower in Liurnia. Though her influence can be felt even earlier through her gift of the spirit calling bell. She tasks you with finding the treasures of Norcron, the Eternal City, which requires defeating Star Scourge Rudon to open the path. This connection between Ranni's quest and Rudon's fate takes on new significance in light of shadow of the Erdtree's revelations about their relationship. The Finger Slayer blade that you retrieve from Nokron is more than just a weapon. It's a symbol of Ranni's ultimate goal, the severing of the connection between the lands between and the cosmic forces that have controlled its destiny. This blade can harm the Greater Will's agents, the fingers that serve as intermediaries between the cosmic order and earthly reality. Ranni's quest line takes you through the Kayan study hall, where reality itself is inverted through the power of the Kayan inverted statue. This serves as a metaphor for Ranni's entire project, the inversion of the established cosmic order, the turning upside down of assumptions about how gods and mortals should relate to each other. The climax of the quest occurs in the depths beneath the cathedral of Mani Celes, where Ranni waits in a state between life and death, her soul housed in a doll, while her original body lies cold above. Here you present her with the dark moon ring, a symbol of betrothal and partnership that represents not just personal alliance, but cosmic transformation. The Age of Stars ending itself is unique among all the game's conclusions. Instead of sitting upon the Trier's throne, the Tarnished ascends with Ranni into the cosmos itself, beginning a 1,000-year voyage guided by the wisdom of the moon. The Erdtree is replaced by a dark moon, and the Golden Order gives way to what Rani calls an order not of gold, but the stars and moon of the chill night. Guessed the philosophy behind the Age of Stars is profound and multifaceted. Rani speaks of keeping her order far from the earth beneath our feet, ensuring that it cannot be corrupted by earthly politics or personal ambitions. She seeks to create a system where the cosmic order exists, but does not interfere with mortal life, where gods rule from a distance that prevents them from becoming tyrants. This represents a fundamental critique of all previous forms of divine rule in the lands between. The Greater Will's order was imposed from above, with the two fingers serving as direct agents of cosmic authority. The various demigods ruled through divine right, claiming authority based on their connection to higher powers. Rani's order deliberately severs these direct connections, creating what might be called a hands-off approach to cosmic governance. The translation of Rani's final speech has been a subject of much debate, with significant differences between the English and Japanese versions. In Japanese, Rani's intention seems even more clearly focused on creating a system where the cosmic order exists, but cannot be directly perceived or touched by mortals, eliminating the ability of would-be tyrants to claim divine mandate for their earthly rule. The Age of Stars ending is often considered the good ending by many players, and it's easy to see why. It promises freedom from tyranny, distance from oppressive cosmic forces, and the possibility of mortals determining their own fate. Yet it also raises questions about abandonment and responsibility by removing themselves from direct governance. Do Rani and the Tarnished also abandon their responsibility to protect the world from threats they may be uniquely positioned to address? The 1,000-year voyage that concludes the ending is both literal and metaphorical. Literally, it suggests that Rani and the Tarnished will spend the next millennium exploring the cosmos, learning the wisdom of the stars and moon. Metaphorically, it represents a complete break from the cycles of earthly politics and divine intervention that have defined the world's history. In the context of Shadow of the Erdtree revelations, the Age of Stars takes on additional significance. We now know that divine rule has always been built upon violence, that the ascension to godhood requires the crushing of those who came before. Ma's rise involved the persecution of the Hornsent, while her own people had been persecuted in turn. Rani's solution is to break this cycle entirely by removing the gods from direct earthly power. The Age of Stars also represents a form of maturation for both the Tarnished and the world itself. Instead of remaining in the position of a child seeking divine guidance or a subject accepting cosmic authority, the Tarnished becomes a partner in cosmic rule, while the world is left to develop its own systems of governance without divine interference. Yet this ending also embodies a form of tragedy. The Tarnished, who worked so hard to explore and understand the lands between, must ultimately leave it behind. The relationships formed, the struggles endured, the world saved. All of this becomes part of the past as the new cosmic order begins. It's a bittersweet conclusion that offers hope for the future at the cost of separation from everything that came before. The relationship between Ronnie and the Tarnished in this ending is unique among all the game's conclusions. In every other ending, the Tarnished rules alone or serves as an agent of larger forces. Only in the Age of Stars do they become a true partner, ruling alongside someone who shares their power and wisdom. This partnership represents not just personal fulfillment, but a new model for how power can be exercised, not through dominance, but through collaboration. Shadow of the Tree, Mika's tragic vision. With the release of Shadow of the Erdtree, our understanding of Elden Ring's ending has been enriched by new context and the revelation of an additional conclusion within the DLC itself. While the expansion doesn't add new endings to the base game, it provides a parallel narrative that illuminates the themes and choices that define each of the 6 main endings. The story of Shadow of the Erdtree centers on Mitchell the Kind, perhaps the most tragic figure in all of Elden Ring's pantheon. Son of Ma and Rathagen, brother to Melania, Mitchell was born with the power to compel love and affection, yet cursed to remain forever young. His vision was of a gentler world, one free from the curses and suffering that defined his family's existence. The DLC's narrative structure deliberately parallels the main game's ending choices. Just as the Tarnished must choose between different visions of order in the base game, the story of Shadow of the Erdtree presents us with different perspectives on Mitchell's quest for godhood and his methods of achieving his vision of compassion. Mitchell's journey to the Land of Shadow represents his attempt to transcend the limitations of his birth and achieve true godhood. Unlike his mother America, who ascended through violence and conquest, Mitchellus sought to achieve divinity through the ultimate sacrifice, the abandonment of his own flesh, his fears, his doubts, and ultimately his love. This process of divesting himself of humanity in pursuit of a divine ability to create a perfect world forms the tragic core of the DLC's narrative. The revelation that Rudon is Michela's promised consort adds layers of complexity to this story. In the Shadow of the Erdtree ending, we face promised consort Rudon, a being reborn through Michika's power and grace. This represents Mitchell's vision made manifest, the resurrection of the dead in service of a kinder world, the transformation of warriors into instruments of peace. Yet the very fact that we must fight this vision reveals its fundamental flaw. Mitchell's kindness, stripped of human limitation and elevated to divine compulsion, becomes a form of tyranny. His ability to inspire love becomes the power to override free will. His desire to heal the world's wounds becomes a need to eliminate everything that doesn't fit his vision of perfection. The final boss battle against Michika and Radon is particularly poignant because it forces us to destroy a vision that on its surface seems genuinely benevolent. Mitchell speaks of creating a world without cruelty, without the curses that plague his family, without the cycles of violence that have defined the lands between's history. Yet his method of achieving this vision, the compulsion of love, the override of will, the elimination of choice, makes it indistinguishable from any other form of tyranny. The DLC's ending doesn't provide a traditional conclusion with multiple choices like the base game. Instead, it offers a memory, a glimpse of Michela before his transformation, sitting alone beside an empty throne, asking for a gentler world. This image is heartbreaking in its innocence and tragic in its implications. We see the moment before Mitchell chose the path that would lead to his own damnation and the necessity of his destruction. The tragedy of Michela's story is that his intentions were genuinely pure. Unlike the other demigods who sought power for its own sake, Michela truly wanted to heal the world's wounds. His research into unalloyed gold was driven by a desire to cure his sister's rot. His creation of the Erdtree was an attempt to provide sanctuary for the outcasts of the Golden Order, and his ultimate quest for godhood was motivated by a sincere belief that only divine power could create the gentle world he envisioned. Yet, the very purity of his intentions makes his fall all the more tragic. By divesting himself of love and doubt, Michelola eliminated the human elements that might have tempered his divine authority. Love, without the possibility of rejection, becomes compulsion. Kindness, without the acceptance of cruelty, becomes tyranny. The gentle world he sought to create could only exist if all beings were forced to be gentle. And such forced gentleness is indistinguishable from slavery. The parallel between Michela's story and the base game's endings is profound. Each ending represents a different response to the world's suffering. From restoration to revolution to destruction, Mitchell's path represents perhaps the most seductive of all possible responses. The promise that if we just accumulate enough power, if we just achieve sufficient authority, we can force the world to be good. The DLC shows us the inevitable result of such thinking, the corruption of good intentions by the very power meant to implement them. The revelation of Michela's true nature also recontextualizes many of the base game's endings. His ability to compel love and affection raises questions about the nature of choice itself. If a demigod can override free will through charm, what does that say about the validity of any choice made in their presence? The various followers who appear throughout the DLC from the loyal Ansbach to the devoted Leda, all struggle with the question of whether their devotion is genuine or merely a product of Michaela's influence. This theme resonates through all of Elden Ring's endings. The Age of Fracture represents trust in traditional authority. But what if that authority is maintained through supernatural charisma rather than genuine merit? The Age of Order promises perfect law. But what if perfect law is indistinguishable from perfect tyranny? Even the Age of Stars, seemingly the most liberating ending, involves the Tarnished being taken away by a being of immense power whose true motivations remain mysterious. The Land of Shadow itself serves as a metaphor for the hidden costs of divine rule. This realm, sealed away behind Ma's veil, contains the violence and trauma that the Golden Order preferred to forget. Here lie the ruins of the Hornsent civilization, destroyed in America's crusade of revenge. Here too, we find Mesma, the Impaler, America's own son, condemned to carry out her will in darkness and secrecy. The Land of Shadow is what every divine order requires, but prefers not to acknowledge. A realm of violence and suffering that makes the appearance of peace and prosperity possible. The crusade against the Hornsent, revealed in the DLC, provides crucial context for understanding the cycles of violence that define the world's history. The Hornet, we learn, tortured and killed Ma's people, the shamans, in their jar rituals. These rituals were an attempt to create perfect beings by melding different forms of life together. But they required the destruction of the shaman's unique properties. When America achieved godhood, she did not break this cycle of violence, but perpetuated it, launching her own crusade of extermination against the Hornsent. This revelation transforms our understanding of every ending in the base game. The Age of Fracture, which restores the Golden Order, also restores this system built upon hidden violence. The Age of Order, which seeks to perfect divine law, risks perfecting divine cruelty as well. The Blessing of Despair, which curses all existence, can be seen as the ultimate expression of the cycles of revenge that the DLC reveals. Even the Age of Stars, which removes the gods from direct rule, could be seen as an attempt to escape responsibility for the violence that divine rule requires. The character of Mesma himself serves as a dark mirror to all the ending's protagonists. Like the Tarnished who becomes Elden Lord, Mesma serves as his mother's champion and executive of her will. Yet, his story shows us the cost of such service. Eternal exile in a shadowed realm, branded as a figure of fear and hatred, condemned to carry out necessary violence while bearing the full weight of its moral cost. In Mesma, we see what the Tarnished might become in any ending where they choose to serve as an agent of cosmic authority. The DLC's exploration of family trauma and its intergenerational effects adds another layer to the main game's endings. Michaela's quest for godhood can be understood as an attempt to heal the trauma that defined his family, the curses that afflicted his siblings, the violence that built their mother's empire, the cycles of revenge that preceded their birth. Yet his methods only perpetuate these cycles in new forms, creating fresh trauma for future generations to inherit. This theme of inherited trauma resonates through all the endings. The Age of Fracture restores a system built upon historical violence, ensuring that future generations will inherit both its benefits and its costs. The Age of Order seeks to prevent future trauma through perfect law, but risks creating the trauma of absolute control. The Blessing of Despair explicitly visits the sins of the present upon future generations. Only the Age of Stars offers a genuine break from these patterns by removing the sources of cosmic authority entirely, though at the cost of abandoning the world to face its problems without divine aid. The philosophy of choice in Elden Ring's endings. The multiplicity of endings in Elden Ring reflects FromSoftware's sophisticated understanding of moral philosophy and political theory. Each ending represents not just a different outcome for the world, but a different fundamental approach to the problems of governance, justice, and the relationship between power and responsibility. The Age of Fracture embodies a conservative philosophy, the belief that existing institutions, despite their flaws, are preferable to revolutionary change. This ending trusts in the basic structure of the Golden Order, while hoping that new leadership can address its problems. It represents the appeal of restoration over revolution, of healing over transformation. The Age of Order reflects the technocratic impulse, the belief that rational systems and perfect laws can solve human problems. Gold Mask's vision is of governance through algorithm rather than human judgment, of cosmic law so perfectly designed that it eliminates the possibility of corruption or error. It's an appealing vision for those who believe that the world's problems stem from flawed decision rather than fundamental conflicts of interest. The Age of the Duskborn represents a philosophy of acceptance and inclusion, rather than trying to perfect the world or eliminate its problems. This ending seeks to expand the definition of what constitutes valid existence. It's a liberal philosophy in the classical sense, one that emphasizes tolerance and the expansion of rights to previously excluded groups. The Blessing of Despair embodies a radical egalitarian philosophy taken to its logical extreme. The Dungers's vision is of equality through shared suffering, of justice through universal injustice. It represents the appeal of revolutionary destruction when reformist approaches seem inadequate to address systemic problems. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending reflects nihilistic philosophy, the belief that existence itself is the problem, and that the only solution is the elimination of existence. It's the end point of despair about the possibility of meaningful reform or revolution. The Age of Stars represents what might be called cosmic libertarianism, the belief that the fundamental problem is the existence of coercive authority itself. Ronnie's solution is not to perfect government, but to remove it to a distance where it cannot interfere with mortal self-determination. Each of these philosophical approaches has historical precedence and contemporary relevance. The conservative impulse of the Age of Fracture can be seen in political movements that seek to restore past greatness while preserving existing institutional structures. The technocratic vision of the Age of Order reflects contemporary debates about artificial intelligence, algorithmic governance, and the possibility of removing human bias from decision-making systems. The inclusive philosophy of the Age of the Dustborn resonates with movements for civil rights and the expansion of social acceptance to marginalized groups. The radical egalitarianism of the Blessing of Despair echoes revolutionary movements that seek to tear down existing hierarchies, even at great cost. The nihilism of the Frenzied Flame reflects the appeal of accelerationism and the desire to burn it all down when other approaches seem inadequate. The libertarian philosophy of the Age of Stars speaks to contemporary debates about the proper scope of government authority and the possibility of human flourishing without extensive institutional control. What makes Elden Ring's treatment of these philosophies sophisticated is that it presents each as a genuine response to real problems. The Golden Order's flaws, its persecution of outcasts, its disruption of natural cycles, its susceptibility to corruption, are real and significant. Each ending offers a different solution to these problems, and each solution has both appealing aspects and troubling implications. The game refuses to provide easy answers or clear moral guidance. Instead, it presents the player with genuinely difficult choices between competing values. Do you prioritize stability or justice, order or freedom, inclusion or excellence, security or autonomy? Each ending emphasizes different values and accepts different costs. This moral complexity is enhanced by the personal relationships that drive each quest line. Gold Mask is presented as a brilliant scholar whose insights into the nature of divine law are genuinely valuable. Fire is shown as a compassionate figure whose care for the dying and the outcasts is deeply moving. Even the Dung Eater, for all his villainous, articulates a real critique of the world's inequalities. Ronnie is presented as a complex figure whose rebellion against cosmic authority comes with both great costs and great potential benefits. The DLC's exploration of Michaela's story adds another layer to this moral complexity. Here is a character whose intentions are unquestionably pure, whose desire to heal the world's wounds is genuine, yet whose methods lead to tyranny, and whose vision ultimately requires his own destruction. Mitchell's tragedy illustrates the dangers of believing that pure intentions are sufficient to justify the accumulation of ultimate power. The revelation of the historical cycles of violence that preceded the Golden Order further complicates the moral landscape. We now know that every system of order in the world's history has been built upon violence against some group or another. The Hornsent tortured the shamans. Ma destroyed the Hornsent. And now the Tarnished must choose what to do with the system Ma built. Each ending can be seen as a different response to this legacy of violence. The philosophical sophistication of Elden Ring's endings extends to their treatment of power itself. The game consistently shows that the accumulation of power, regardless of the intentions behind it, tends to corrupt those who wield it. America began as a victim, but became a perpetrator. Mika sought to heal, but became a tyrant. Even Ronnie, perhaps the most sympathetic of the powerful figures, removes herself from direct rule precisely because she understands the corrupting nature of power. This creates a paradox that runs through all the endings. The problems of the world seem to require powerful solutions. Yet, the accumulation of power necessary to implement those solutions tends to corrupt the very goals they were meant to achieve. Each ending represents a different attempt to resolve this paradox. From Gold Mask's effort to make power algorithmic and thus incorruptible, to Ronnie's decision to make power distant and thus less dangerous. The role of trauma and memory in shaping destiny. One of the most profound themes that emerges from a comprehensive analysis of Elden Ring's endings is the role that trauma and memory play in shaping both individual choices and cosmic destiny. The shadow of the Erdtree DLC has made this theme explicit through its exploration of the historical violence that preceded the Golden Order, but traces of it can be found throughout the base game's ending scenarios. The concept of inherited trauma is central to understanding the world of Elden Ring. The lands between exist in a state where the wounds of the past continue to bleed into the present. The persecution of omens stems from ancient fears about the crucible. The hatred of those who live in death comes from the Golden Order's disruption of natural cycles. The shattering itself can be understood as the culmination of traumas that were never properly addressed or healed. Each ending represents a different approach to dealing with this inherited trauma. The Age of Fracture attempts to restore the system that created the trauma, hoping that new leadership can somehow transcend the cycles of violence that the system inherently perpetuates. It's an approach that focuses on healing symptoms while leaving root causes unrest. The Age of Order seeks to prevent future trauma through the implementation of perfect systems that eliminate the possibility of divine caprice or personal corruption. It's a technocratic response to trauma. The belief that if we can just design perfect institutions, we can prevent the kinds of conflicts that create intergenerational wounds. The Age of the Dustcorn attempts to heal trauma through acceptance and inclusion by embracing those who exist in liminal states between life and death. This ending seeks to end the persecution that stems from fear of the different or the unknown. It's a therapeutic approach to cosmic governance. The blessing of despair represents trauma taken to its logical extreme. The decision that if everyone must suffer, then suffering itself becomes meaningless. It's a response born from the recognition that some traumas are so severe that traditional healing seems impossible. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending embodies trauma as total annihilation. When suffering becomes unbearable and healing seems impossible, the attraction of simply ending everything becomes understandable, even if it remains horrifying. The Age of Stars offers what might be called a dissociative response to trauma, the removal of the sources of cosmic authority to a distance where they cannot continue to inflict fresh wounds. It's an ending that prioritizes preventing future trauma over healing past wounds. The DLC's revelation of America's own traumatic past adds crucial context to this analysis. We now understand that the Golden Order itself was built as a response to trauma. America's transformation from victim to goddess was driven by her experience of persecution and loss. Yet, her response to trauma was to perpetuate the cycle, inflicting upon the Hornsent the same kind of systematic violence that they had inflicted upon her people. This pattern of trauma response, creating fresh trauma, appears throughout the game's lore. Mika's quest for godhood was driven by his desire to heal his sister's affliction and create a gentler world. Yet his methods created their own forms of violence and oppression. Rani's rebellion against the cosmic order was motivated by her desire for freedom. Yet, it required orchestrating her own death and manipulating others to achieve her goals. The game's treatment of memory is equally complex. Memory in Elden Ring is not simply personal recollection, but a cosmic force that shapes reality itself. The walking mausoleums preserve the memories of soulless demigods. The spirit ashes allow the dead to continue acting in the world through the power of remembered purpose. The very landscape bears the memory of ancient conflicts in its geography and architecture. Each ending represents a different relationship with memory and the past. The Age of Fracture seeks to honor the memory of the Golden Order while healing its wounds. The Age of Order attempts to transcend the problems of the past through perfect systematization. The Age of the Duskborn embraces memories of death and transformation that the Golden Order sought to suppress. The blessing of despair perpetuates the memory of suffering into all future generations. The Lord of Frenzied Flames seeks to burn away all memory, returning existence to the primordial unity that existed before the divisions of history. The Age of Stars preserves memory while removing its cosmic authority, allowing the past to inform but not control the future. The relationship between trauma, memory, and power is particularly evident in the character of America herself. Her shattered state within the Erdtree represents both the culmination of cosmic trauma and the source of its perpetuation. She exists simultaneously as victim and perpetrator, goddess and prisoner, the center of divine authority and the being most constrained by it. The fact that most endings require the player to interact with Mara's shattered form emphasizes the centrality of trauma to the cosmic order. To become Elden Lord, you must literally touch the broken goddess, accepting both the power and the burden of her legacy. Only in the Age of Stars do you bypass this interaction, instead choosing to leave with Ronnie for a cosmic journey that explicitly moves beyond the sight of earthly trauma. The DLC's exploration of the realm of shadow as a place where traumatic memories are hidden but not healed provides a powerful metaphor for how societies deal with difficult histories. The Land of Shadow contains all the violence and suffering that the Golden Order preferred not to acknowledge. The crusade against the Hornsent, the persecution of the fire giants, the burning of the great tree that preceded the Erdtree. This hidden realm suggests that none of the main game's endings truly address the root traumas of the world's history. The Age of Fracture restores the system while keeping its foundations hidden. The Age of Order perfects the system without examining its traumatic origins. Even the more revolutionary endings, like the Age of Stars or the Lord of Frenzied Flame, focus on future transformation rather than acknowledging and healing past wounds. The only ending that truly grapples with the full scope of historical trauma is perhaps the Age of the Duskborn, which seeks to include and accept all forms of existence, including those that previous orders had rejected or hidden. Yet, even this ending focuses more on future acceptance than past acknowledgement. The DLC's treatment of Mesmir, the Impaler, provides a particularly poignant example of how trauma shapes destiny. Mesmer, cursed with a serpent and abandoned in the shadowed realm, carries out his mother's will while bearing the full moral weight of the violence it requires. His story illustrates how the children of traumatized parents often become the instruments of their parents' unresolved wounds, perpetuating cycles of violence they did not create but cannot escape. This pattern appears throughout the game's genealogy. Millennia bears the curse of rot that defines her existence. Mikola's eternal youth becomes both blessing and curse. Moog's obsession with dynasty building reflects the absence of healthy family structures. Each of these characters represents a different way that parental trauma shapes the next generation. The question that emerges from this analysis is whether any of the endings truly break these cycles of inherited trauma. The Age of Stars comes closest by removing the Tarnished and Rani from the earthly realm entirely. But this represents escape rather than healing. The other endings, each in their own way, risk perpetuating the patterns they seek to address. Perhaps this is the ultimate message of Elden Ring's multiple endings, that there are no easy solutions to the problems created by historical trauma and inherited suffering. Each ending offers partial remedies and creates new problems. Each represents a genuine attempt to address real issues while falling short of perfect resolution. The game's refusal to provide a clearly correct ending reflects this understanding. Just as real-world societies struggle with the legacies of historical violence and systemic oppression, the lands between cannot be easily healed through any single action or choice. The best the Tarnished can do is choose which problems to prioritize and which costs to accept. The cosmic order and individual agency. The tension between cosmic order and individual agency runs through every ending in Elden Ring, reflecting broader philosophical questions about determinism, free will, and the relationship between universal principles and personal choice. The game's multiple endings allow players to explore different perspectives on these fundamental questions while experiencing the consequences of each approach. The greater will, as presented in the base game, represents cosmic order in its most traditional form, a universal force that establishes fundamental laws of reality and expects compliance from all beings within its domain. The two fingers serve as its agents, interpreting cosmic will for mortal understanding and providing guidance toward the fulfillment of divine purpose. This system assumes that cosmic order is inherently good and that individual agency is valuable primarily insofar as it aligns with universal principles. The Age of Fracture ending embraces this traditional relationship between cosmic order and individual agency. The Tarnished exercises their personal choice to restore the Elden Ring, but does so in service of cosmic law as interpreted by the two fingers and Melina. Individual agency becomes the instrument through which cosmic order is restored and maintained. This ending reflects a philosophical position that sees no fundamental conflict between free will and cosmic determinism. The Tarnished chooses to fulfill their cosmic destiny, suggesting that the highest expression of individual agency lies in the voluntary acceptance of universal purpose. It's a perspective that finds meaning through alignment with transcendent principles rather than resistance to them. The Age of Order represents a more complex relationship between these forces. Gold masks vision, acknowledges that individual agency, particularly at the level of divine beings, can corrupt cosmic order. His solution is to perfect the cosmic system to such a degree that individual choice becomes constrained within parameters that prevent the corruption of universal principles. This ending reflects a technocratic approach to the problem of free will versus determinism. Rather than trusting in the natural harmony between individual choice and cosmic order, it seeks to engineer systems that guide individual agency toward optimal outcomes. It's a perspective that sees unfettered free will as dangerous, but believes that properly constrained choice can serve cosmic good. The Age of the Duskborn takes a different approach by expanding the definition of what constitutes valid existence within cosmic order, rather than constraining individual agency to prevent corruption. This ending broadens cosmic order to include forms of existence that previous systems had excluded. The relationship between cosmic law and individual choice becomes more accommodating rather than more restrictive. This reflects a pluralistic philosophical approach that sees cosmic order as expansive enough to encompass diverse forms of individual expression. The tension between universal principles and personal agency is resolved not through constraint or perfect systematization, but through the recognition that cosmic order itself is broad enough to include what might seem like contradictory elements. The blessing of despair presents perhaps the most disturbing relationship between cosmic order and individual agency. The Dung Eater's vision treats individual suffering as a cosmic principle, making universal misery into a form of cosmic law. Individual agency becomes relevant only as the means through which cosmic curse is spread and maintained. This ending reflects a nihilistic philosophical position that sees suffering as the fundamental truth of existence and views any attempt to escape this truth as delusion. Individual choice matters only in so far as it can be used to ensure that all beings share in the cosmic reality of suffering. It's a perspective that finds a twisted form of meaning through the embrace of universal despair. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending represents the complete rejection of the tension between cosmic order and individual agency through the elimination of both. The Frenzied Flame doesn't seek to balance universal principles with personal choice, but to return everything to the primordial unity that existed before such distinctions became meaningful. This reflects a radical philosophical position that sees the division between self and cosmos as the source of all suffering. Individual agency and cosmic order are both viewed as illusions created by the false division of the primordial one into multiple beings. The solution is not to balance these forces, but to eliminate the conditions that make their separation possible. The Age of Stars offers perhaps the most sophisticated treatment of the relationship between cosmic order and individual agency. Ronnie's vision maintains cosmic order, but removes it to a distance where it cannot directly constrain individual choice. The cosmos continues to operate according to universal principles. But these principles do not translate into direct governance of mortal affairs. This ending reflects a libertarian philosophical approach that sees the fundamental problem as the proximity of cosmic authority to individual choice, rather than eliminating cosmic order or constraining individual agency. It seeks to create space between them where personal freedom can flourish without cosmic interference. It's a perspective that finds value in both universal principles and individual choice, but believes they function best when kept at appropriate distances. The shadow of the Erdtree DLC adds crucial complexity to this analysis through its exploration of Mitchell's relationship with cosmic order and individual agency. Mitchell's power to compel love represents a form of cosmic authority that operates through the manipulation of individual choice rather than its elimination. His victims maintain the illusion of free will while having their fundamental emotional responses controlled. This represents perhaps the most insidious relationship between cosmic order and individual agency, one where cosmic authority operates by corrupting the very faculty through which individuals make choices. Michela's vision of a gentle world could only be achieved by eliminating genuine agency while maintaining its appearance. The DLC's revelation that Michler had to abandon his own love and doubt to achieve godhood provides a crucial insight into the relationship between power and agency. To wield cosmic authority effectively, Michler had to eliminate those aspects of his own individual agency that might have constrained his use of power. He became a perfect instrument of cosmic compassion by ceasing to be a genuine individual. This pattern appears throughout the game's treatment of cosmic authority. America's status as both goddess and prisoner within the Erdtree suggests that wielding cosmic power requires the sacrifice of individual agency, even for those who seem to be in control. The greater will's chosen vessels become instruments of cosmic law rather than genuine agents of their own will. The 2 fingers and 3 fingers represent different aspects of this dynamic. The 2 fingers serve as interpreters of cosmic will, but their interpretation may itself be a form of individual agency that corrupts cosmic order. The 3 fingers represent cosmic force, unmediated by interpretation. But this results in chaos rather than meaningful choice. The game's treatment of grace provides another lens through which to examine the relationship between cosmic order and individual agency. Grace appears to guide individual choice toward cosmic purpose, but the Tarnished retain the ability to ignore this guidance. The various endings can be seen as different interpretations of what grace actually demands, and whether following it represents genuine choice or cosmic compulsion. The frenzied flame's ability to override all other ending choices once acquired represents the most extreme example of cosmic force eliminating individual agency. Once marked by the three fingers, the Tarnished loses the ability to choose any other destiny, suggesting that some forms of cosmic power are inherently totalitarian. Yet the existence of Michaela's needle, which can reverse the frenzied flame's influence, suggests that even the most constraining cosmic forces can potentially be resisted through sufficient effort and sacrifice. The requirement that the needle be used in Placidus Sax's arena beyond time itself implies that true freedom from cosmic constraint requires stepping outside the normal flow of reality. The multiple endings ultimately suggest that the relationship between cosmic order and individual agency is not fixed, but depends on the choices made by those who wield cosmic power. Each ending represents a different way of structuring this relationship, from the traditional hierarchy of the age of fracture to the radical separation of the age of stars. The absence of a clearly correct ending reflects the genuine difficulty of balancing universal principles with individual freedom. Each approach offers benefits and costs, and each represents a legitimate response to the fundamental philosophical questions that the game raises. The player's choice of ending becomes their own contribution to the ongoing dialogue between cosmic order and individual agency. The economics of power and the distribution of grace beyond the philosophical and theological implications of Elden Ring's endings lies a complex economic and social analysis of how power is distributed, maintained, and transferred within the lands between. Each ending represents not just a different cosmic order, but a different system for organizing society, distributing resources, and determining who has access to the benefits of civilization. The Golden Order, as it existed before the Shattering, can be understood as a form of divine monarchy backed by cosmic authority. Grace, the golden light that marks those chosen by the greater will, serves as both a spiritual blessing and a form of social capital that determines one's place in the hierarchy. Those touched by grace, the Tarnished, the demigods, the champions of the Golden Order, enjoy privileges and opportunities denied to others. The tree itself functions as both a religious symbol and an economic institution. It promises eternal life to those who die in grace, creating a form of spiritual economy where proper behavior in life is rewarded with continued existence after death. This system incentivizes loyalty to the Golden Order while creating a fundamental inequality between those who have access to this spiritual economy and those who are excluded from it. Age of Fracture ending restores the system without fundamentally altering its economic structure. The Tarnished becomes Elden Lord, sitting at the apex of a hierarchy that distributes power and resources based on divine favor. While new leadership might address some of the system's problems, the fundamental inequality between the graced and the graceless remains intact. This ending appeals to those who believe that the problems of the Golden Order stem from poor leadership rather than structural issues. It assumes that the system can be reformed from within, and that the concentration of power in the hands of a single divinely chosen ruler can be beneficial if that ruler is sufficiently wise and just. The Age of Order represents a technocratic approach to these same economic and social structures. Gold Mask's perfect order doesn't eliminate the hierarchy of the Golden Order, but seeks to make it function more efficiently and fairly by binding the gods themselves to cosmic law. This ending attempts to eliminate the arbitrariness and corruption that can arise when ultimate power is wielded by beings capable of personal preference and error. From an economic perspective, the Age of Order represents an attempt to create a meritocratic system where position and resources are distributed according to objective criteria rather than personal favor or arbitrary divine choice. It's an appealing vision for those who believe that properly designed institutions can eliminate inequality and corruption. Yet, the Age of Order also raises questions about flexibility and adaptation. Perfect systems, by definition, cannot be changed without becoming imperfect. This ending might create a form of cosmic totalitarianism, where even beneficial changes become impossible because they would violate the perfect structure of the law. The Age of the Duskborn represents a more radical approach to the economic and social structures of the lands between. By restoring the natural cycle of life and death, and accepting those who exist in liminal states, this ending challenges one of the fundamental assumptions of the Golden Order's economy, that death is something to be overcome rather than accepted. The Golden Order's promise of eternal life through the Erdtree created a form of spiritual inequality where some souls were worthy of preservation while others were not. The Age of the Duskborn eliminates this distinction, suggesting that all forms of existence have value, and that the natural cycles of life, death, and rebirth should be honored rather than circumvented. From an economic perspective, this ending represents a move toward greater equality and inclusion. By expanding the definition of worthy existence to include the undead and other liminal beings, it creates a more diverse and inclusive society. Yet it also eliminates one of the Golden Order's primary incentives for good behavior: the promise of eternal life for the faithful. The blessing of despair takes the logic of economic equality to its most extreme conclusion. The dung eater's vision eliminates inequality by ensuring that everyone suffers equally. If the problem with the Golden Order is that some are blessed while others are cursed, then his solution is to curse everyone, creating a perfect equality of misery. This ending can be understood as a critique of systems that create fundamental distinctions between worthy and unworthy people by making everyone equally cursed. The blessing of despair eliminates the possibility of using cosmic favor as a basis for social hierarchy. Yet it achieves this equality through universal suffering rather than universal flourishing. The economic implications of this ending are particularly disturbing. A world where everyone is cursed is likely to be a world where cooperation and social organization become extremely difficult. The blessing of despair might eliminate inequality, but it does so by making everyone equally miserable rather than equally happy. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending represents the complete rejection of all economic and social structures through the elimination of the world itself. If the problem is inequality and suffering within existing systems, then the Frenzied Flame offers the ultimate solution: the destruction of all systems entirely. This ending appeals to those who have become so disillusioned with the possibility of reform that they prefer annihilation to continuation. It represents the end point of revolutionary thinking, the belief that some systems are so fundamentally corrupt that they must be completely destroyed rather than reformed or replaced. Yet the Lord of Frenzied Flame ending also represents the ultimate abdication of responsibility for creating better systems. Instead of working to build more just and equitable societies, it chooses to eliminate the possibility of society entirely. It's a solution that solves the problem of inequality by eliminating the conditions that make equality possible. The Age of Stars represents perhaps the most sophisticated approach to the economic and social problems of the lands between, by removing cosmic authority to a distance where it cannot directly interfere with mortal affairs. This ending creates space for new forms of social organization to emerge, rather than imposing a specific economic or social system. The Age of Stars allows mortals to develop their own institutions without divine interference. This represents a form of cosmic federalism where universal principles exist, but do not translate into direct governance of local affairs. The economic implications of this ending are particularly interesting. Without direct divine authority to enforce specific social structures, communities would be free to experiment with different forms of organization. Some might develop democratic institutions. Others might create new forms of monarchy. And still others might experiment with entirely novel approaches to social organization. Yet the Age of Stars also raises questions about protection and guidance. by removing cosmic authority. This ending also removes cosmic protection. Communities would be free to develop their own institutions, but they would also be vulnerable to threats that might require divine intervention to address. The Shadow of the Erdtree DLC adds crucial context to this economic analysis by revealing the historical foundations of the Golden Order's economy. The crusade against the Hornsent can be understood as a form of colonial conquest, where America's forces seized territory and resources while eliminating or subjugating the existing population. The Land of Shadow itself represents the hidden costs of the Golden Order's economy. The violence and suffering that were necessary to establish and maintain cosmic authority, but were kept hidden from the main population. This pattern of hidden violence supporting visible prosperity is a common feature of imperial systems throughout history. The DLC's revelation that Ma's own people were victims of similar violence before becoming perpetrators adds another layer to this analysis. The cycle of victim becoming victimizer, of the oppressed becoming oppressors, reflects broader patterns in how power and resources are transferred between groups over time. Miquela's vision of a gentler world can be understood as an attempt to break these cycles of economic violence. His hickory was meant to provide sanctuary for the outcasts of the Golden Order, the Albinorics, the misbegotten, and others who were excluded from its economic benefits. Yet his methods of achieving this vision ultimately reproduced the same patterns of coercion that characterized the systems he sought to replace. The revelation that Mitchell's power operated through the compulsion of love raises questions about the nature of economic consent. If powerful beings can manipulate the fundamental emotional responses that drive human choice, then the distinction between voluntary cooperation and coercion becomes meaningless. Mitchell's gentle world could only exist through the elimination of genuine economic agency. The various NPCs who follow different ending paths throughout the game represent different approaches to these economic and social questions. The care for the dying represents a gift economy based on mutual aid and compassion. Gold Mask scholarship represents the belief that intellectual work can solve social problems. The Dung Eater's violence represents the belief that existing systems are so corrupt that they must be destroyed even at enormous cost. Ronnie's rebellion represents perhaps the most complex economic philosophy in the game. Her rejection of the Golden Order isn't driven by a desire for personal power, but by a belief that cosmic authority itself is inherently corrupting. Her solution, removing herself and the Tarnished to cosmic distance, represents a form of economic abdication that creates space for new systems to emerge. The economic implications of each ending extend beyond immediate questions of resource distribution to broader questions about the nature of value and worth. The Golden Order created a system where spiritual value was determined by cosmic authority, where some lives were inherently more valuable than others based on divine favor. Each ending represents a different approach to these questions of value. The Age of Fracture maintains the existing hierarchy of spiritual value, while hoping that new leadership can address its inequities. The Age of Order seeks to make this hierarchy more rational and fair. The Age of the Dustcorn expands the definition of valuable existence to include previously excluded forms of life. The Blessing of Despair eliminates hierarchies of value by making all existence equally worthless. The Lord of Frenzied Flame eliminates the question of value entirely by destroying the conditions that make valuation possible. The Age of Stars removes cosmic authority from the determination of value, allowing communities to develop their own understanding of worth and meaning. The question that emerges from this analysis is whether any economic or social system can truly address the fundamental inequalities that seem to characterize existence in the lands between. Each ending offers solutions that create new problems, suggesting that the pursuit of perfect justice might be inherently impossible. Yet, the existence of multiple endings also suggests that the problems of inequality and injustice are not inevitable features of existence, but result from specific choices about how power and resources are organized. The Tarnished's choice of ending becomes a choice about which economic and social problems to prioritize, and which cost to accept in addressing them. The environmental and ecological implications, the relationship between cosmic order and the natural world forms another crucial dimension of Elden Ring's endings, one that becomes particularly apparent when we consider the ecological implications of each choice. The lands between exist in a state of environmental crisis, where the natural cycles that once governed life and death have been disrupted by divine intervention. And each ending represents a different approach to healing or managing this ecological damage. The tree itself serves as the central symbol of this environmental crisis. What appears to be a great tree, a symbol of natural growth and vitality, is revealed through the course of the game to be something more complex and potentially artificial. The tree's golden sap, its ability to preserve souls, and its role in preventing natural death all suggest that it represents a form of supernatural intervention in natural processes rather than their culmination. The relationship between the Erdtree and the Crucible, revealed through various item descriptions and architectural details, suggest that the current cosmic order was built upon the suppression of more ancient and chaotic forms of life. The Crucible represented a time when all life was blended together, where the boundaries between different forms of existence were fluid and permeable. Golden Order brought definition and hierarchy to this chaos, but at the cost of suppressing the vital forces that made the Crucible's diversity possible. The age of fracture ending restores the Erdtree to its position of environmental dominance, ensuring that the supernatural order it represents continues to override natural processes. This ending maintains the system where souls are collected by the tree rather than following natural cycles of death and decay. From an ecological perspective, it represents the continued dominance of artificial order over natural chaos. This choice has profound implications for the diversity and vitality of life in the lands between. The Golden Order's emphasis on hierarchy and definition tends to suppress the kind of chaotic mixing that characterize the Crucible. Species and forms of life that don't fit neatly into the Order's categories are marginalized or eliminated, leading to a reduction in overall biodiversity. Yet the age of fracture also offers stability and protection against the kinds of catastrophic change that might result from more radical interventions. The Erdtree, for all its artificial nature, has provided a framework for civilized life for countless generations. Its restoration ensures that the basic conditions for human flourishing continue to exist even if they come at the cost of natural diversity. The Age of Order takes the logic of environmental control to its extreme conclusion. Gold Mask's perfect order doesn't just maintain the tree's dominance over natural processes, but seeks to make this dominance so complete and rational that it eliminates the possibility of ecological disruption entirely. This ending envisions a world where even natural processes operate according to perfect divine law. From an ecological perspective, the Age of Order represents the ultimate triumph of design systems over evolutionary ones. Perfect order would eliminate the waste, conflict, and apparent randomness that characterize natural ecosystems in favor of a system where every element functions according to rational principles. It's an appealing vision for those who see nature as inherently flawed and believe that intelligent design can create better outcomes than natural selection. Yet, perfect ecological control also eliminates the adaptability and resilience that come from natural diversity and competition. Ecosystems designed according to perfect principles might function efficiently under stable conditions, but could prove catastrophically fragile when faced with unexpected challenges or changes. The Age of the Duskborn represents a fundamentally different approach to environmental management. By restoring the natural cycle of life and death and accepting liminal forms of existence, this ending seeks to heal the ecological damage caused by the Golden Order's interference with natural processes. The restoration of death as a natural process has profound ecological implications. Death is not just an endpoint for individual organisms, but a crucial component of ecological cycles that transfer energy and nutrients between different forms of life. The Golden Order's disruption of death created a form of ecological constipation, where resources became locked up in the Erdtree rather than cycling through the broader ecosystem. The age of the Duskhorn's acceptance of undead and other liminal beings also represents a more diverse and inclusive approach to ecological management. Instead of trying to eliminate forms of life that don't fit neatly into defined categories, this ending embraces the full spectrum of existence, including forms that exist between traditional boundaries. Yet, this ecological diversity comes with its own challenges. A world where the boundaries between life and death are fluid might be more vibrant and diverse, but it might also be more dangerous and unpredictable for human inhabitants. The restoration of natural cycles doesn't guarantee that those cycles will be comfortable or convenient for civilized life. The blessing of despair represents perhaps the most environmentally destructive of all the endings, despite its egalitarian intentions. The Dungeons' curse doesn't just affect human social organization, but extends to the fundamental processes of birth and development that drive ecological systems. A world where all new life is born cursed would face severe ecological consequences. Cursed beings might be less capable of fulfilling their ecological roles, leading to cascading effects throughout food webs and nutrient cycles. The blessing of despair's emphasis on defilement and contamination suggests an environment where pollution and corruption become the norm rather than the exception. Yet this ending also eliminates the ecological hierarchy that characterize the Golden Order. If all life is equally cursed, then no species or form of existence can claim special status or privilege over others. The blessing of despair might create ecological equality through universal contamination, but it achieves this equality by degrading the overall health of the ecosystem. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending represents the ultimate environmental catastrophe, the complete destruction of all ecological systems through cosmic fire. This ending doesn't seek to manage or reform the relationship between cosmic order and natural processes, but to eliminate both entirely. From an ecological perspective, the frenzied flame represents the appeal of starting over when existing systems seem irredeemably damaged. If the disruption caused by divine intervention has made natural recovery impossible, then perhaps complete destruction, followed by cosmic rebirth, offers the only path to genuine ecological healing. Yet the frenzied flame's promise of return to primordial unity is essentially anti-ecological. Ecosystems depend on diversity, difference, and the complex interactions between distinct forms of life. The elimination of these differences in favor of undifferentiated unity would eliminate the conditions that make ecological complexity possible. The Age of Stars offers perhaps the most nuanced approach to environmental questions. By removing cosmic authority to a distance where it cannot directly interfere with natural processes. This ending creates space for ecological systems to develop according to their own logic rather than divine mandate. The replacement of the golden earth tree with Rani's dark moon suggests a shift from active intervention to passive observation. The moon influences natural cycles, tides, seasons, animal behavior, but does so in a way that works with natural processes rather than overriding them. This ending represents a form of cosmic environmentalism that seeks to minimize divine interference with natural systems. Yet, the Age of Stars also removes the protection and guidance that cosmic authority provided. Natural systems might be free to develop according to their own logic, but they would also be vulnerable to catastrophic changes or external threats that might require divine intervention to address. The freedom to develop naturally comes with the risk of natural catastrophe. The Shadow of the Tree DLC adds crucial context to these ecological considerations by revealing the environmental history that preceded the Golden Order. The burning of the great tree that came before the tree represents a form of ecological catastrophe that parallels humanity's real-world experiences with deforestation and environmental destruction. The revelation that the current tree grew from the remains of this earlier tree suggests that even apparently natural systems might be built upon the destruction of what came before. This pattern of ecological succession through catastrophe reflects broader questions about whether environmental healing requires the destruction of existing systems or can be achieved through their reform. The crucible's role as the original source of all life in the lands between provides another lens through which to examine the ecological implications of each ending. The crucible represented a time of maximum biological diversity, where the boundaries between different forms of life were fluid, and the potential for new evolutionary developments was unlimited. Each ending represents a different relationship with this primordial ecological potential. The Age of Fracture maintains the Golden Order's suppression of crucible energies in favor of defined hierarchies and clear categories. The Age of Order seeks to perfect this suppression through rational systematization. The Age of the Dustborn embraces some aspects of crucible diversity by accepting lineal forms of existence, though it doesn't necessarily restore the full chaos of the original mixing. The blessing of despair corrupts crucible energies rather than suppressing them, creating diversity through contamination rather than natural development. The Lord of Frenzied Flames seeks to return to the state that preceded the crucible entirely, eliminating not just current ecological systems, but the potential for ecological development itself. The Age of Stars removes cosmic constraint on crucible energies while maintaining cosmic oversight from a distance. The question that emerges from this ecological analysis is whether any form of cosmic order can coexist with genuine ecological health. The history of the lands between suggests that divine intervention inevitably leads to environmental disruption. Yet, the complete absence of cosmic guidance might leave natural systems vulnerable to catastrophic failures. Each ending represents a different attempt to balance these competing concerns. Some prioritize stability and protection over natural diversity. Others emphasize ecological health over cosmic order. Still others seek to find new relationships between divine authority and natural processes. The environmental implications of each ending extend beyond questions of ecological health to broader questions about humanity's relationship with the natural world. Do human beings require cosmic protection from natural forces? Or does such protection ultimately prove more harmful than helpful? Can civilized life coexist with ecological diversity? Or does the maintenance of human society require the suppression of natural chaos? These questions don't have easy answers, and Elden Ring's multiple endings reflect this complexity. Each ending offers a different vision of how human civilization might relate to the natural world, and each comes with its own costs and benefits. The player's choice becomes a statement about which environmental values they consider most important and which ecological costs they're willing to accept. The metaphysics of identity and transformation. Perhaps the most profound philosophical questions raised by Elden Ring's endings concern the nature of identity itself. What makes someone who they are? Whether identity is fixed or mutable, and what it means to transform at the most fundamental level. These questions become particularly acute when we consider the cosmic transformations that each ending represents, not just for the world, but for the Tarnished who implements them. The very concept of the Tarnished challenges traditional notions of identity. These are beings who once possessed grace, lost it, and now seek to reclaim it. Yet the Tarnished we play is not simply returning to a previous state, but becoming something new. Elden Lord, a role that transcends their original identity entirely. This transformation raises questions about continuity and change. Is the Elden Lord the same person who began the journey as a lowly Tarnished? Or have they become something fundamentally different? Each ending represents a different answer to these questions of identity and transformation. The Age of Fracture suggests that identity can be expanded and elevated while maintaining essential continuity. The Tarnished becomes Elden Lord, but remains recognizably themselves, sitting upon the throne as an enhanced version of who they always were. This ending embraces transformation while maintaining the comfort of identity continuity. The Age of Order takes a more radical approach to the question of identity transformation by binding even gods to perfect cosmic law. This ending suggests that individual identity is ultimately less important than systemic function. The Tarnished becomes Elden Lord not as a unique individual, but as the perfect fulfillment of a cosmic role. Identity becomes subordinate to function, and personal characteristics matter only insofar as they serve universal principles. This philosophical approach reflects broader questions about whether individual identity is inherently valuable or merely instrumentally useful. Gold Mask's vision suggests that the problems of the world stem partly from the excessive emphasis on individual personality and preference. Perfect order eliminates these sources of chaos by making identity purely functional rather than personal. The Age of the Duskcorn offers perhaps the most complex treatment of identity transformation. By embracing the liminal states between life and death, this ending suggests that identity itself might be more fluid and mutable than typically assumed. The undead, the deathbed companions, and other beings who exist between traditional categories challenge the notion that identity must fit into clearly defined boundaries. Fia's own transformation throughout her quest line illustrates this philosophical approach. She begins as a woman who provides comfort to the dying, but her ultimate sacrifice to birth the mending rune of the Death Prince transforms her into something else entirely. Yet this transformation is presented not as a loss of identity, but as its ultimate fulfillment. She becomes most truly herself by embracing her role in the cosmic order of life and death. The blessing of despair represents perhaps the most disturbing approach to identity transformation. The Dung Eater's curse doesn't eliminate individual identity, but corrupts it, ensuring that all future identities will be fundamentally tainted by his influence. This ending suggests that identity is not fixed, but can be altered at the most basic level, and that such alterations can be imposed upon unwilling subjects. The philosophical implications are deeply troubling. If identity can be corrupted through cosmic curse, then the boundaries of the self become permeable to outside influence in ways that eliminate meaningful consent or agency. The Dung Eater's vision treats identity as something that can be reshaped according to the will of those with sufficient power, reducing individual selfhood to a form of property that can be modified by others. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending takes the logic of identity transformation to its ultimate conclusion: the elimination of individual identity entirely through return to primordial unity. This ending suggests that the separation between self and other, between individual and cosmos, is itself the source of suffering, and that true peace can only be achieved through the destruction of these distinctions. The philosophical appeal of this position is evident in various mystical traditions that see individual identity as an illusion to be transcended. Yet, the frenzied flame's approach to transcendence is through destruction rather than enlightenment, through the burning away of distinction rather than the recognition of underlying unity. It represents a form of metaphysical nihilism that sees identity as a mistake to be corrected rather than a mystery to be explored. The Age of Stars offers the most sophisticated treatment of identity transformation by suggesting that individual identity can be maintained even as it undergoes cosmic expansion. The Tarnished becomes Rani's consort and partner in cosmic rule. But this transformation appears to enhance rather than eliminate their individual characteristics. The 1,000-year voyage that concludes this ending represents identity transformation as exploration and growth rather than destruction or absorption. The Tarnished and Rani will presumably change over the course of their cosmic journey, but these changes will result from their experiences and choices rather than external imposition or systemic constraint. This ending reflects a philosophical approach that sees identity as dynamic rather than static, but fundamentally self-directed rather than externally determined. The cosmic transformation that the Age of Stars represents doesn't eliminate the self, but expands the context within which the self can operate and develop. The Shadow of the Tree DLC adds crucial complexity to these questions through its exploration of Mikla's identity transformation. Mika's quest for godhood required him to abandon fundamental aspects of his identity: his flesh, his fears, his doubts, and ultimately his love. This process raises profound questions about what constitutes the essential self, and whether any transformation that requires the abandonment of core characteristics can be considered authentic growth. Miquela's transformation is particularly tragic because it was motivated by genuinely compassionate intentions. He sought to become a god capable of creating a gentler world, but the process of achieving godhood required him to abandon the very compassion that motivated his quest. The being who achieved divine power was no longer capable of the love that originally drove the desire to help others. This pattern of transformation, undermining its own motivation, appears throughout Elden Ring's treatment of power and identity. Ma became a goddess to escape persecution, but found herself trapped within systems that required her to perpetuate the very patterns of violence she had sought to escape. The pursuit of power to solve problems tends to create new problems that eliminate the possibility of achieving the original goals. The relationship between identity and memory becomes particularly important in this context. the walking morale that preserve the memories of soulless demigods, suggest that identity and memory are intimately connected, but potentially separable. Is a being who retains memories, but loses their soul the same person or something else entirely? The spirit ashes that allow the dead to continue acting in the world provide another perspective on this question. These beings retain enough of their original identity to fulfill their remembered purposes, but they exist in a state between life and death that challenges traditional notions of selfhood. Are they the same people they were in life, or echoes and shadows of former selves? Ronnie's own existence as both doll and spirit raises similar questions. Which version of Ronnie is the real one? The cold corpse that sits atop her tower, or the doll that speaks and acts in the world? Her ability to exist simultaneously in multiple forms suggests that identity might be more distributable and less singular than typically assumed. The game's treatment of rebirth through Rena's magic provides yet another lens through which to examine identity transformation. The ability to reallocate stats and change fundamental characteristics suggests that identity is mutable and subject to revision. Yet the rebirthed character retains their memories and essential personality, suggesting that some aspects of identity are more fundamental than others. The philosophical questions raised by these various forms of transformation extend beyond the game itself to broader questions about personal development, social change, and the nature of the self. If identity is mutable, what are the ethical implications of changing it? Who has the right to determine how identity should be transformed? What aspects of the self are essential and which are merely accidental? Each ending represents a different approach to these questions. Some treat identity as fundamentally stable and seek to enhance or elevate it without changing its essential nature. Others see identity as necessarily mutable and seek to guide its transformation according to universal principles. Still, others embrace the fluidity of identity while seeking to preserve individual agency in determining the direction of change. The absence of a clearly correct answer reflects the genuine difficulty of these philosophical questions. Different cultural and philosophical traditions have offered different perspectives on the nature of identity and the desirability of various forms of transformation. Elden Ring's multiple endings allow players to explore these different perspectives while experiencing their implications in a concrete narrative context. The question that ultimately emerges from this analysis is whether any form of cosmic transformation can preserve what is most valuable about individual identity while achieving the benefits that such transformation promises. Each ending offers a different answer to this question, and each comes with its own costs and benefits. Perhaps the most profound insight offered by Elden Ring's treatment of identity transformation is that these costs and benefits cannot be evaluated abstractly, but must be experienced concretely. The choice of ending becomes not just an intellectual exercise, but an existential commitment to a particular vision of what the self can and should become. The temporal dimensions of choice and consequence, the question of time, how it flows, what it means, and whether it can be transcended or manipulated forms another crucial dimension of Elden Ring's endings. The game's treatment of temporal mechanics, from the walking morceliums that preserve moments outside of time, to Placidus' Axis realm beyond temporal flow, suggests that the nature of time itself is at stake in the cosmic choices that define each ending. The lands between exist in a state of temporal distortion, where normal causality has been disrupted by the shattering. The golden trees bear fruit that allow for temporal manipulation. The spirit ashes preserve moments of purpose that transcend death. And various characters exist in states that suggest time operates differently for different forms of being. This temporal complexity means that each ending represents not just a choice about the future, but a choice about the nature of time itself. The Age of Fracture ending represents an attempt to restore linear temporal progression. The idea that time should move forward from past through present to future in an orderly fashion. The restoration of the Elden Ring and the assumption of the Elden Lord's throne suggests a return to the kind of stable temporal order that existed before the shattering disrupted the normal flow of events. This approach to time reflects a fundamentally conservative philosophy that sees temporal disruption as inherently problematic. The Age of Fracture assumes that proper temporal order involves clear causation, predictable progression, and the kind of stability that allows for long-term planning and development. It represents the appeal of temporal certainty over temporal chaos. Yet, the very name Age of Fracture suggests that this restoration of temporal order might be imperfect. The cracks and breaks that the shattering created in the flow of time might be healed, but not eliminated entirely. This ending might restore functional temporal order without achieving perfect temporal unity. The Age of Order takes a more radical approach to temporal questions by seeking to make time itself subject to perfect cosmic law. Goldmer's vision doesn't just restore temporal order, but seeks to perfect it, creating a system where even temporal flow operates according to rational principles that eliminate the possibility of temporal chaos or disruption. This represents a technocratic approach to time. The belief that temporal flow can be optimized through proper systematization. Perfect order might eliminate not just political corruption, but temporal uncertainty, creating a universe where the future can be predicted with perfect accuracy because it follows perfect laws. Yet perfect temporal order also eliminates the possibility of genuine novelty or surprise. If time flows according to perfect law, then the future becomes a mechanical consequence of the present, rather than an open field of possibility. The age of order might solve the problems of temporal chaos by eliminating the conditions that make temporal creativity possible. The age of the Dustborn represents a fundamentally different approach to temporal questions. By embracing the liminal spaces between past, present, and future, the restoration of death as a natural process creates a form of temporal cycling where beings can exist in states between different temporal moments. The undead who characterize this ending exist in a form of temporal suspension, neither fully in the past death nor the present life, but in a state that encompasses both. This suggests a more fluid understanding of time, where different moments can coexist, and where the boundaries between temporal states are permeable rather than absolute. This approach to time reflects a more cyclical philosophy that sees temporal flow as involving constant return and renewal rather than linear progression. The age of the Duskborn might create a world where past, present, and future exist in dynamic relationship rather than rigid sequence. The blessing of despair represents perhaps the most disturbing approach to temporal questions by extending its curse across all future generations. This ending doesn't just affect the present moment, but ensures that its influence will extend indefinitely into the future, creating a form of temporal determinism where the present shapes all possible futures. The philosophical implications are deeply troubling. If present choices can determine the fundamental nature of all future existence, then future generations lose any meaningful agency over their own temporal experience. The blessing of despair treats the future as the property of the present, rather than as an open field of possibility for those who will live it. Yet this ending also reflects a genuine insight about the temporal consequences of present choices. The decisions made in any historical moment do shape the possibilities available to future generations. The blessing of despair takes this temporal interconnectedness to its logical extreme, making explicit the ways that present choices constrain future options. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending represents the ultimate rejection of temporal existence through the return to primordial unity that preceded the division of time into past, present, and future. This ending doesn't seek to reform temporal flow, but to eliminate it entirely, returning everything to the undifferentiated state that existed before time began. The philosophical appeal of this position lies in its promise to escape the burdens of temporal existence, the weight of the past, the uncertainties of the future, the constant pressure of present choice. If temporal existence is inherently problematic, then perhaps the elimination of time offers the only genuine solution to its problems. Yet, the Frenzied Flame's approach to temporal transcendence is through destruction rather than enlightenment, instead of achieving a higher form of temporal existence that incorporates and transcends linear time. It seeks to return to the lower form that preceded temporal differentiation entirely. The Age of Stars offers perhaps the most sophisticated treatment of temporal questions by suggesting that time can be transcended without being destroyed. The 1,000-year voyage that concludes this ending represents a form of temporal experience that operates according to cosmic rather than earthly rhythms. The replacement of the sun with the dark moon suggests a shift from solar time, day and night, seasons, the rhythms that govern earthly life, to lunar time. Longer cycles, cosmic rhythms, the patterns that govern stellar development. This ending doesn't eliminate time, but expands its scale and scope. The Age of Stars also suggests that temporal transcendence can be achieved through exploration and discovery, rather than destruction or constraint. The cosmic voyage represents a form of temporal experience that is open-ended and creative, rather than determined by fixed laws or cycles. The shadow of the Erdtree DLC adds crucial complexity to these temporal considerations through its exploration of the relationship between memory and time. The Land of Shadow exists as a place where historical events are preserved, but hidden, where the past continues to influence the present, but remains largely invisible to those living in the main timeline. This suggests that time in the lands between operates according to multiple layers or dimensions. The visible timeline where most events occur exists alongside hidden timelines where suppressed events continue to influence the flow of history. The DLC's narrative reveals how these hidden temporal dimensions shape the apparent timeline in ways that are not immediately obvious. Mika's quest for godhood represents another approach to temporal questions, the attempt to transcend temporal limitation through the accumulation of sufficient power. His ability to abandon aspects of himself suggests a form of temporal control where past states can be discarded and future states can be chosen deliberately. Yet Michela's temporal transcendence comes at the cost of temporal continuity. The being who achieves godhood is no longer temporally connected to the being who began the quest. This form of temporal transcendence eliminates temporal identity rather than expanding it. The relationship between choice and consequence becomes particularly complex when viewed through this temporal lens. Each ending represents not just a choice about what should happen, but a choice about how choice itself should operate within temporal flow. Some endings preserve the possibility of future choice by maintaining temporal openness. Others constrain future choice through present systematization. Still, others eliminate the possibility of choice entirely through various forms of temporal transcendence or destruction. The question that emerges from this temporal analysis is whether any form of present choice can truly account for its future consequences. The complexity of temporal flow in the lands between suggests that the relationship between intention and outcome is far more complicated than simple linear causation would suggest. Each ending represents a different approach to this temporal uncertainty. Some seek to minimize uncertainty through perfect systematization. Others embrace uncertainty as an inevitable feature of temporal existence. Still others seek to escape uncertainty entirely through various forms of temporal transcendence. Perhaps the most profound insight offered by Elden Ring's treatment of temporal questions is that time itself is not neutral, but shaped by the cosmic forces that govern reality. The choice of ending becomes a choice about what kind of time will exist in the future: linear or cyclical, open or determined, creative or mechanical. This suggests that temporal experience is not simply a background condition for choice, but itself the object of choice. The temporal dimension of each ending represents its deepest philosophical commitment, its vision of what temporal existence can and should become. Conclusion: the weight of cosmic responsibility. As we reach the end of our comprehensive exploration of Elden Ring's endings, we find ourselves confronting the same fundamental question that faces the Tarnished at the foot of the Erdtree. What does it mean to assume responsibility for the cosmic order itself? Each ending represents not just a choice about personal destiny, but a choice about the nature of reality for all beings who will exist in the future. The weight of this responsibility is almost incomprehensible. The decisions made in those final moments will shape the lives of countless beings across countless generations. The Tarnished who sits upon the throne or ascends to cosmic partnership with Ronnie bears responsibility, not just for their own fate, but for the fundamental structure of existence itself. Yet perhaps this is the ultimate message of Elden Ring's multiple endings, that such cosmic responsibility cannot be borne perfectly by any individual or system. Each ending offers genuine benefits and creates genuine problems. Each represents a sincere attempt to address real issues while falling short of perfect solutions. The age of fracture offers stability and continuity at the cost of perpetuating existing inequalities. The age of order promises perfect justice through perfect law, but risks eliminating the possibility of growth and change. The age of the Duskborn embraces diversity and natural cycles, but may sacrifice the protection that divine order provides. The blessing of despair achieves equality through universal suffering, solving the problem of inequality by making everyone equally miserable. The Lord of Frenzied Flame eliminates all problems by destroying the conditions that make problems possible. The Age of Stars offers freedom from cosmic tyranny, but removes cosmic protection and guidance. Shadow of the Uri adds yet another layer to this complexity by showing us that even the most well-intentioned attempts to improve the world, Mitchell's quest for a gentler existence, can become new forms of tyranny when pursued with sufficient power. The DLC suggests that the very act of accumulating enough power to solve cosmic problems tends to corrupt the motivations that originally drove the quest for such power. This creates what might be called the paradox of cosmic responsibility. The problems of existence seem to require powerful solutions. Yet the accumulation of power necessary to implement such solutions tends to create new problems that may be worse than the original ones. Every god becomes a tyrant. Every savior becomes a conqueror. Every attempt at perfect order becomes a new form of oppression. Yet, the existence of multiple endings also suggests that this paradox is not necessarily fatal. The possibility of choice, even imperfect choice, represents a form of freedom that transcends the specific outcomes that any particular choice produces. The fact that the Tarnished can choose between different forms of cosmic order suggests that such order is not fixed or inevitable, but subject to revision and reform. Perhaps this is the deepest philosophical insight that Elden Ring offers, that the choice itself is more important than any particular outcome the choice produces. The act of choosing represents the assertion of agency in the face of cosmic forces that would otherwise determine destiny according to their own logic. Each ending can be seen as an experiment in cosmic governance, a test of whether particular approaches to the fundamental problems of existence can produce better outcomes than the alternatives. The fact that no ending is perfect doesn't eliminate the value of experimentation, but makes it more important, not less. The game's refusal to designate any ending as objectively correct reflects a mature understanding of moral and political complexity. Real-world societies face similar choices between competing values and approaches to governance, and these choices rarely have clear or perfect answers. The best that can be hoped for is the wisdom to choose thoughtfully and the humility to recognize that any choice will have costs as well as benefits. The relationship between the base game's endings and the shadow of the Erdtree DLC's revelations suggests that our understanding of these choices will continue to evolve. As we learn more about their historical context and implications, the DLC's exploration of the violence that preceded the Golden Order transforms how we understand each ending's relationship to this legacy of trauma and revenge. Perhaps future content will reveal additional layers of complexity that further transform our understanding of these cosmic choices. The world of Elden Ring is vast and deep, and FromSoftware has consistently shown that their narratives can contain more complexity than initially apparent. What remains constant, however, is the fundamental insight that cosmic responsibility cannot be avoided through inaction. The Tarnished, who refuses to choose an ending, cannot escape the consequences of choice. They simply allow others to make the choice for them. In a world where cosmic forces are active and competing, neutrality becomes impossible. This makes the player's engagement with Elden Ring's endings more than just a gameplay choice or narrative conclusion. It becomes a form of philosophical exercise that requires grappling with fundamental questions about power, responsibility, and the nature of good governance. The choice of ending represents the player's own contribution to the ongoing dialogue about how society should be organized and what values should guide collective decisionism. The fact that this choice takes place within a fictional context doesn't diminish its significance, but may actually enhance it. Fiction allows for the exploration of possibilities and consequences that would be too dangerous or costly to test. In reality, the virtual cosmos of the lands between becomes a laboratory for experimenting with different approaches to the fundamental problems of existence. Each playthrough of Elden Ring offers the opportunity to explore a different approach to cosmic responsibility. Players who choose different endings are conducting their own experiments in moral philosophy, testing whether different values and priorities lead to outcomes they can accept or endorse. The multiplicity of endings ensures that no single playthrough can exhaust the philosophical possibilities that the game offers. Even players who experience all 6 endings directly will find that their understanding of each choice continues to evolve as they reflect on the experience and consider alternative approaches. This ongoing process of reflection and reconsideration mirrors the way that real-world societies must continuously revisit their fundamental choices about governance and values. The problems that any particular approach solves tend to create new problems that require fresh approaches, leading to an ongoing cycle of reform, revolution, and adaptation. Perhaps this is the ultimate wisdom that Elden Ring offers, that the work of building and maintaining good societies is never finished, that each generation must make its own choices about fundamental questions of organization and value, and that the best outcome any generation can hope for is to make choices that are somewhat better than the alternatives available to them. The Tarnished, who stands before the fractured statue of America, faces the same basic challenge that confronts every real-world citizen: how to exercise responsibility for collective outcomes when individual knowledge and power are limited. When all available choices have significant costs, and when the long-term consequences of any decision remain fundamentally uncertain, the choice of ending becomes a test of character, not because any particular choice is objectively right or wrong, because the act of choosing requires the acceptance of responsibility for outcomes that cannot be perfectly predicted or controlled. The willingness to make such choices despite their uncertainty represents a form of moral courage that is necessary for any functioning society. In this sense, Elden Ring's endings serve as both entertainment and education, offering players the chance to experience the weight of cosmic responsibility in a context where the stakes are fictional, but the moral and philosophical challenges are real. The game's achievement in creating multiple endings that feel genuinely consequential lies not just in their narrative weight, but in their philosophical depth. Each ending represents a coherent worldview that addresses real problems and embodies real values, even when those values conflict with one another or lead to outcomes that individual players might find troubling. This philosophical sophistication distinguishes Elden Ring from games that offer multiple endings merely as a form of replay value or player empowerment. The endings here are not different flavors of the same basic outcome, but genuinely different approaches to the fundamental questions of existence. They require players to think seriously about what they value most and what costs they're willing to accept to achieve those values. The integration of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC into this analysis reveals how ongoing narrative development can deepen and complicate our understanding of these philosophical choices. The DLC doesn't invalidate any of the base game endings, but adds layers of historical context and moral complexity that enrich their meaning. Mitchell's tragic story serves as a cautionary tale about the corruption of power that applies to all the endings. Even the most benevolent intentions can become tyrannical when backed by sufficient force. Even the purest motivations can be corrupted by the very process of accumulating the power necessary to implement them. Yet, the DLC also shows us that the alternative to wielding power, the refusal to accept responsibility for cosmic outcomes, can be equally problematic. The suffering that Michaela witnessed, the inequalities that he sought to address, and the cycles of violence that he hoped to break were all real problems that demanded solutions. His failure doesn't invalidate the attempt, but illustrates the tragic difficulty of the enterprise. This brings us back to the fundamental insight that emerges from our comprehensive analysis, that the choice between different forms of cosmic order is not a choice between good and evil, but a choice between different forms of good that are incompatible with one another, and different forms of evil that are unavoidable consequences of pursuing any particular good. The Tarnished's choice of ending represents their decision about which goods to prioritize and which evils to accept. This is not a comfortable choice because it requires acknowledging that any decision will involve real costs for real beings. The luxury of moral purity, the ability to support only policies that have no negative consequences, is not available to those who bear cosmic responsibility. This insight extends beyond the fictional world of Elden Ring to real-world questions of governance and social organization. Real societies must make choices between competing values like security and freedom, equality and excellence, stability and progress. These choices rarely have perfect answers, and the best that can be hoped for is the wisdom to choose thoughtfully and the integrity to accept responsibility for the consequences. The game's treatment of these themes becomes particularly relevant in an era where many real-world societies are grappling with fundamental questions about their basic organization and values. The rise of populist movements, the challenges of technological change, the pressures of environmental crisis, and the ongoing struggle for social justice all reflect the same basic tensions that appear in Elden Ring's endings. Each ending offers a different model for how societies might address these challenges. The Age of Fracture represents the appeal of traditional institutions and gradual reform. The Age of Order reflects the technocratic belief that rational systems can solve social problems. The Age of the Duskborn embodies the progressive emphasis on inclusion and acceptance. The Blessing of Despair, for all its apparent villainous, represents the appeal of radical egalitarianism. When traditional approaches to inequality seem inadequate, the Lord of Frenzied Flame reflects the nihilistic impulse that can emerge when existing systems seem irredeemably corrupt. The Age of Stars offers a vision of liberation through the rejection of centralized authority. None of these approaches is without real-world analogies and advocates. The philosophical sophistication of Elden Ring lies in its ability to present each approach as a genuine response to real problems, while acknowledging the costs and limitations that each approach inevitably involves. The game's refusal to resolve these tensions through a clearly superior ending reflects the ongoing nature of these debates in real-world contexts. Just as the lands between cannot achieve perfect resolution of its fundamental conflicts, real societies must continue to navigate the tensions between competing values and approaches to collective organization. Yet, the existence of choice itself represents a form of hope. The fact that different approaches are possible means that societies are not trapped by their current arrangements, but can experiment with alternatives. The fact that no approach is perfect means that the work of improvement is never finished, but also never hopeless. This brings us to the question of how players should approach the choice of ending in their own playthroughs. Our analysis suggests that there is no objectively correct answer to this question. Each ending represents a legitimate philosophical position with its own merits and drawbacks. The most appropriate choice for any individual player depends on their own values, priorities, and understanding of the trade-offs involved. who prioritize stability and continuity might choose the age of fracture. Those who believe in the power of rational systems might prefer the age of order. Players who value inclusion and natural cycles might select the age of the Dusthorn. Even the apparently negative endings, the Blessing of Despair and the Lord of Frenzied Flame, represent coherent philosophical positions that some players might find compelling under certain circumstances. The Blessing of Despair's radical egalitarianism and the Frenzied Flame's rejection of existing systems both address real problems, even if their solutions are extreme. The Age of Stars, often considered the best ending by players, offers the most appealing combination of benefits with the fewest obvious costs. Yet, even this ending involves significant trade-offs. The abandonment of direct cosmic guidance, the uncertainty of what will emerge in the absence of divine authority, and the personal cost of leaving the world behind for a cosmic journey. Perhaps the most valuable insight that players can gain from engaging seriously with these choices is an appreciation for the complexity of governance and the inevitability of moral compromise in positions of responsibility. The Tarnished situation, having to choose between imperfect options while bearing responsibility for cosmic consequences, mirrors the situation of anyone who seeks to improve the world through political action. This understanding can lead to greater empathy for those who bear real-world responsibility for difficult decisions, greater sophistication in evaluating different approaches to social problems, and greater humility about the limitations of any particular solution to complex challenges. The game's treatment of these themes also suggests the importance of ongoing dialogue and reflection about fundamental questions of social organization. The fact that Elden Ring's endings continue to generate discussion and debate among players years after the game's release reflects the depth and relevance of the philosophical questions they raise. This ongoing dialogue serves a valuable function in helping society work through its own fundamental challenges. Fiction that engages seriously with questions of governance and responsibility provides a space for exploring possibilities and consequences without the immediate costs that real-world experimentation would involve. The addition of Shadow of the Uri to this dialogue demonstrates how our understanding of these questions can continue to evolve as new information and perspectives become available. The DLC doesn't resolve the fundamental tensions present in the base game's endings, but adds new layers of complexity that enrich our understanding of what's at stake in each choice. Future additions to the Elden Ring universe, whether through additional DLC, sequels, or related works, will likely continue this process of deepening and complicating our understanding of the fundamental questions that the game raises. This ongoing development reflects the living nature of philosophical inquiry itself. The questions that Elden Ring raises about power, responsibility, justice, and governance are not problems to be solved once and for all, but ongoing challenges that each generation must address anew. The game's contribution lies not in providing definitive answers, but in helping players develop the intellectual and moral tools necessary to engage with these challenges thoughtfully and responsibly. In the end, the true value of Elden Ring's multiple endings lies not in any particular choice that players make, but in the process of grappling with the choice itself. The act of considering the different options, weighing their costs and benefits, and ultimately accepting responsibility for the consequences represents a form of moral education that extends far beyond the boundaries of the game itself. The Tarnished who stands before the fractured statue of Ma becomes a symbol for every citizen who must navigate the complex moral landscape of democratic participation. The cosmic responsibility that the game places on players' shoulders mirrors the collective responsibility that real-world citizens bear for the societies they inhabit and help to shape. This is perhaps the most profound achievement of Elden Ring's narrative design. It transforms players from passive consumers of entertainment into active participants in moral philosophy, requiring them to think seriously about fundamental questions of governance and responsibility, while experiencing the emotional weight of cosmic choice. The multiple endings ensure that this philosophical engagement remains open-ended and ongoing. No single playthrough can exhaust the moral possibilities that the game offers, and no final choice can resolve all the tensions that the narrative raises. Players are left with the understanding that the work of thinking about these questions is never finished, but always valuable. As we conclude our deep exploration of Elden Ring's endings, we're left not with answers, but with better questions. What does it mean to exercise power responsibly? How should societies balance competing values and interests? What are the costs and benefits of different approaches to governance? How can we make difficult choices while acknowledging their limitations and consequences? These questions have no easy answers, but engaging with them seriously, whether through the fictional cosmos of the lands between or through real-world civic participation, represents one of the most important forms of human activity. The search for better ways to organize collective life and exercise collective responsibility is the work of every generation. And fiction like Elden Ring provides valuable tools for this ongoing endeavor. The Tarnished's journey from exile to cosmic responsibility mirrors the journey that every thoughtful citizen must make from passive observer to active participant in the great collective project of building and maintaining good societies. The choice of ending becomes not just a narrative conclusion, but a philosophical commitment, a statement about what kind of world the player believes is worth creating and maintaining. And so ends our deep dive into the endings of Elden Ring, including the profound revelations of Shadow of the Erdtree. We've discovered that each path represents not just a different fate for the lands between, but a different answer to the fundamental questions of existence itself. The legacy of these choices continues to resonate, challenging us to think deeply about power, responsibility, and the eternal struggle to build a better world. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey through the philosophical depths of Elden Ring's cosmic choices. If you enjoyed this comprehensive exploration of gaming's greatest moral dilemmas, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into the stories that shape our understanding of heroism, sacrifice, and the eternal quest for meaning in digital worlds. Until next time, fellow adventurers, may your own choices be guided by wisdom and tempered by compassion.